Hello everyone, now let's come to ABC seminar. If you look at the questions here, we've got a few questions here. You can see we have, these are theory questions. You can do it in your own, that's fine. We've got this is abacus, longer question, okay, for ABC and traditional. We've got question number 7, and question number 8, ABC, all of them. Let's pick up one to answer during this seminar. Okay, maybe let's go to abacus. Maybe it's a bit complicated, maybe. And anyway, if I do this, so 7 and 8, it's 90% similar, so you should be fine. Anyway, let's focus on this session, on this question number 6, and hopefully you will understand it and get it right. Okay, so for this question, if you look at the products here, we have 3 products. We have ABC, isn't it? ABC, and we have here the units available for ABC. We have 10,000 units, 10,000 units for A, 8,000 units for B, and 11,000 units for C. Okay, here we go, that's one. Okay, good. So here we have a direct material cost per unit for each, as you see. Okay, and also we have the direct material cost per unit, direct material cost per unit. Direct labor cost, sorry. This is material and this is labor. And for each unit, yeah, that's right. And this is £6 per hour. It does tell you that we pay labor £6 per hour, £6 per hour. Okay, so the manufacturing overhead, the production overhead is £680,000, £680,000. Okay, so I'm not gonna continue. I'm gonna stop till now and go to required A. Calculate the budgeted full production cost per unit of each product using the current methods of absorption costing, which is labor or machine hours. We need to find out. I think the question mentioned that they are using labor, they are absorbing absorbing overhead on the basis of direct labor hours. So traditionally they are absorbing the overhead on the basis of labor hours. Okay, so now we need to calculate the cost per unit, the full production cost per unit, on the basis of labor hours. Okay, so if you go back and you remember the formula you need to use, it's the OAR, overhead absorption rate, which is the total production cost, production overhead divided by by activity level. And of course here we talk about number of labor hours, but here number of labor hours is not available here. As you see, it's not available here, number of labor hours. And even the direct labor hour per unit, is not available here. So we need to find it out. So first of all, what you need to do, you need to list the production units. Okay, list the production units under ABC, and after that we need to calculate the labor hour per unit. So we need the labor hour per unit, the direct labor hour per unit, in order to multiply it by number of units and find out what, and find out the total labor hours. So how did we manage to get 2.5 and 3 and 2 labor hour per unit? We need 2.5 hours. How? Very simple, because the question doesn't give you the direct labor hour per unit, but if you look at the question here, it does tell you the direct labor cost per unit. Direct labor cost per unit. If you divide this 15, if you divide it over 6, yeah, 15 over 6, which is £6 per hour, £6 per hour, right? If you 15 divided by 6, 18 divided by 6, and 12 divided by 6, in this case you should be able to find out the direct labor hour per unit for each one. Once you find direct labor hour per unit, very simple, what you need to do, this is 2.5 hour per unit. In this case, if you multiply by number of units for A, you should be able to find the total labor hours for A is 25,000 labor hours. Okay, same with B, same with C. If you add up them all together, that's 71,000 labor hours. 71,000 labor hours. Okay, so if you apply to the formula now, you've got the hours. Easy, just apply the formula, which is the production overhead, 680,200. Here we go. Can you see? This is the production overhead, which is 680,200. If you divide it by number of labor hours, which is the 71,000 labor hours, you should be able to find out the OAR. OAR is £9.58 per hour, or per labor hour. Per labor hour. Okay, this is the way we calculate the OAR. Once you calculate the OAR, just makes your life easier, that you need to calculate the cost per unit for the 3 products. So as we mentioned, you just need to copy paste the direct material cost per unit and the direct labor cost per unit. This is from the question. You just copy paste them. We have no issues with direct cost, with variable cost. Our issues with the overhead cost per unit, which we need to calculate here. So once we have the OAR here, the 9.58, you just need to multiply it by what? Multiply it by the direct labor hour per unit. Direct labor hour per unit. This one. If you multiply this times this, this times this, 3, and this times 2, you should be able to do the overhead cost per unit here. Okay, the overhead cost per unit here. In this case, if you add this together, the material, labor, and overhead per unit, you should be able to find the overhead cost per unit. Not the overhead, the full production cost per unit equal £50.95. £50.95, and this also applies to B and C. B and C. This is production cost per unit using traditional costing technique, using on the basis of labor hours. Okay. Okay, great. So now, okay. Now let's go back to the question and let's look at this. Okie dokie. Now, when it comes to this, the 680,200, this is the production cost, and this is divided into, or is broken down into the activities or the cost here. Can you see them? These are the activities, and these are the cost drivers. For example, if we talk about machine cost or machine setup cost, the cost driver is number of batches here, number of batches. I know some will say, oh right, the machine setup cost might be number of machine hours. It depends on the question, but the question here is clearly specify its number of batches. Okay, yeah, that's great. And now if you talk here, if you look at the batches here we go, number of batches, but here you talk about what? Batch size, these in units. So each batch has 250 units. So that means in order to find the number of batches, what you need to do, you need to go and find the number of units for A, for instance, 10,000 units, and divide by 250 here in order to find the number of batches. The second activity, we have the material ordering cost, and as you see, it's based on number. The driver is number of purchase order. So the number of purchase order per batch. Again, there's a trick here, isn't it? So number of purchase order, if it was like this, that's fine. But here, look, per batch. In this case, we need to find first the number of batches and then multiply it by 322. Okay. Machine running cost and the general facility cost, these both of them we using cost driver of machine hours. Easy how to calculate machine hours, very simple. Here we go, that's the direct machine hour per unit, and this one you need to multiply by the number of units for each. Okay, right, let's do the ABC. Okay, so now first of all, yeah, as I mentioned here, let's do A. So we have 10,000 units. If you divided by 250 units, this is in each batch we have 250 units. If you divided, this means we have 40 batches for A. Can you see? 40 batches for A. And in order to find out the number of orders, so what you need to do, as I mentioned, the number of batches, you need to multiply it by number of purchase orders per batch. So we've got here number of orders, which is 120 orders. So far for A, 120, 40, 110, that's 270. So far 270 orders. This is the important part here. Yeah. And also number of batches is also important because this is the cost driver, isn't it? This is the cost driver there. The last cost driver, we had the machining cost or the machine hours, and I did mention, if you remember, what you need to do, the number of units, you need to multiply it by the direct machine hour per unit. The number of units, you need to multiply it by the direct machine hour per unit. So you find out the machine hours here, the 45,000 machine hours. So once you've managed to find out the number of batches and number of orders and number of machine hours, in this case you should be able to go to step 4 and absorb or allocate the overheads of each product. And if you remember, so what we need to do here, actually before this we need to use the OER, calculate the OER. Yes, we haven't done OER. Yes, that's right. Okay, let's do the OER or the cost drivers rate. It's very simple, as we mentioned. So the cost for each and divided by the activity level. So if you talk about machine cost, if you look at the cost of machine cost is £140,000. You need to divide by number of batches, and if you look at the number of batches is 115. Can you see? So that's 1,217.39. If you look at the second activity, which is the material ordering cost, can you see? That's based on number of purchase orders. So that's 150,000 divided by 270, which is the number of customer orders. And the next activity, so what I did here, I combined them together because they have the same cost driver. However, if you want to make them separate and treat each individual, it's up to you, it's fine. But what I did myself, I combined them together, 210 plus 180, so I combine them together, so that's divided by number of machine hours, because this is the same cost driver, that's 45,000. Okay, 8.67. So the next step, what we need to do, we need to allocate the overhead of each product. So you need to list all the activities. You remember, now we have 3 activities because we combine this together, so we have 3 activities. Let's start with machine setup cost. So remember how we allocated. So this is the 1,217. You multiply it by what? You multiply it by the number of batches for A, and the number of batches for A is 40, isn't it? So 1,217 times 40 equal this, 1,217.39 times this equal this, and 1,217.39 times 55, that comes with C. Of course, if you add them all together, that comes with 140, the cost of the machine setup. You need to be accurate in terms of decimals. You got 140. Some students, if they are not accurate in terms of decimals, so you will not get 140,000 exactly. When it comes to the exam, yeah, most important thing, okay, you don't need to be 100% accurate like Excel sheet, but you need to make sure it's 2 decimals is there. Okay, we've got the next one is the material ordering cost. And for the material ordering cost, again, what we need to do, this 55.56, you need to multiply by number of orders for A, 120 and 40 and 110, and here we go. Can you see? And again, if you add them together, that comes with 150,000 pounds, which is the same as the orders. The last one, I think the last one is this one, which we need to machine running cost plus the facility cost. If you remember, guys, I combine them together, so very simple. You just need to do it the 8.67, you multiply it by each, so this is by 15,000, here we go, comes here. If you multiply by 8,000, comes here, 22 comes here. So if you add them together, so that's 390,200, which is the total of 180 and 210. So this is the allocation. Now if you add up all the production overhead cost for A, you should be able to find that the total overhead cost, production overhead cost for A, 245,428.98. And in order to find the overhead cost per unit, what you need to do, you need just simply divide it by number of units available, and the number of units available for A, it's 10,000 units. If you divide it, you should be able to find the 24.54, 24 pound 0.54 pence. It's the full, or not the full actually, the overhead cost per unit. The overhead cost per unit. The same you need to do it for B, and the same you need to do it for C. This is the overhead cost per unit. Okay, great. So the last step, what you need to do, the last step, you need to calculate the full production cost per unit. Of course, the full production cost per unit, including material, labor, overhead. For material, labor is there in the question, copy paste. And for the overhead per unit, it's there. Look, we have already done it. You just copy paste there. If you add them together, this is the overhead full production cost per unit using ABC, and compare with the budgeted. This is the budgeted. Here we go. Look, this is the ABC cost per unit. Can you see? Yeah. Okay, it's one line. And this is the budgeted full cost per unit using absorption costing, traditional costing. So as you see, guys, so here almost there's no difference. Here really there's a difference. It's a huge difference. Wow, it's a huge difference here. So we thought that the cost is £60, but it's actually 46. And here again there's a huge difference here of £9 almost. So we thought it's 42 our cost, the cost of this, but actually it tends to be more. It tends to be more. Again, the point here, you need to understand that how the ABC it makes the cost per unit more accurate, and it will result in better decision making. So remember this. So hopefully this will help you to understand ABC in more details. And as I said, the rest of the question, it's almost the same. So a little bit some tricks, but the idea is the same. So yeah, thank you very much and have a good day. God bless.